Hello, hello, my beautiful brother or sister in Christ, my friend. I'm slightly distracted. I'm trying to cross the road. My what? My smart one, my able one, my anointed one. I love having you in my flock, friend. I'm so glad you are here. Welcome back to the Daily Bread Bible Study with me, your host, Sandy. Today I read my Bible, now I'm out on my morning walk. I was in Exodus 5, and I am excited to share the takeaway from this study with you about that spot in the faith walk with Jesus where, despite our desires to get free from whatever difficulty we are facing, we continue to choose a familiar hell over freedom. And so I want to start this by asking you a question. Have you ever prayed for God to change your life only to become frustrated when things get harder instead of easier? That's the question of the day. Have you ever asked God for healing, for freedom, for deliverance, transformation? What else? What am I missing here? Only to find yourself wondering, God, what are you doing? I thought I was following you, and you're supposed to be making this better. Does that sound like you? Well, if it does, you are not alone, friend. Come on. Let's walk. Let's talk about this place. Well, I am going to be walking. I'm on my morning walk while we chat. Whatever you are doing, wherever you're at in your day, I hope you'll throw in your earbuds and join me for this word of encouragement for another day of battling whatever mountain or giant you're facing. I just want to appreciate you for a moment. I love waking up and interacting with you and talking to you and motivating you, and I am so glad and so grateful for you. I just love sharing these messages that God puts on my heart with you from my Bible studies, and I love that you receive the message. And I'm letting the Lord use me in this very difficult season. I'm going through it too, and I just really appreciate that you are open to the message. So let's not do this alone. Let's be friends. How are you? Are you moisturized today? Did you get your drink of choice today? Did you have a good night's sleep? Tell me in the comments what is going on for you. I want to hear about your struggles, your wins with God. I want to know you. I want to hear from you. Let's walk this faith walk together today with Jesus. You encourage me through my challenges, and I encourage you through yours. I am a blessing to you. You are a blessing to me. Okay, so the Israelites fell the exact same way, I want to say, in this Exodus chapter 5, okay? So God had just raised up Moses here, and he had promised deliverance, and he had told the Israelites that he had seen their suffering, and he was going to rescue them from Egypt. And everything seems to be moving in the right direction. Does that sound familiar to you? It sounds familiar to me. I remember hearing the promises of God and being like, okay, let's do this. I'm ready to go, God. Okay, but then for the Israelites, things get worse. Don't they? They get worse. And Pharaoh responds to Moses by increasing the people's workload. He tells them they must continue producing the same number of bricks, except now they must gather their own straw. And I'm listening to my commentary this morning. I am doing my research, and this is no minor inconvenience. It was an impossible burden. The Israelites would have had to scatter throughout the land looking for stubble and straw, and they had to gather it themselves. They had to dry it. They had to bundle it. They had to carry it. They had to haul it back themselves. Somewhere I read that they might not even have had donkeys to help them. And so all of that took time also away from making bricks. And yet we have this taskmaster. In my last episode, we were talking about the taskmaster and where he just places this incredible burden on you. Have you ever been there? Go check out that last episode. And so Pharaoh refused to lower the quota, and yet the expectations remain the same while the resources were removed. And if they failed, what happened if they failed? The beatings were coming here in this chapter. And Pharaoh, he was making a statement. You want freedom? You want another God? You want to get away from this taskmaster? Me? Whatever that mountain, that giant is for you, whatever that taskmaster is for you. Have you ever heard that? Fine. Then this is what happens when you leave your idol, when you leave Satan as your God, the God on the throne of your heart, and you decide you're going to start doing it God's way. You're going to seek him out. You're going to turn to him. Okay, we talked about this, the same chapter I was in yesterday. And so we talked about this in the last episode. This should really be some kind of a part 2. But yeah, and this is heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking for the Israelites. It's heartbreaking for us when we go through it. And what do we do as humans? It tells us right here in this chapter our kind of natural reaction. We begin blaming. Okay, sometimes we blame God. Sometimes we blame another person. Sometimes it's the person trying to get us free, trying to help us get free. We get offended and we're like, wait, what? No. I don't want you to take my idol. I don't want you to take my addiction. I don't want to give it up. How rude for you to think I would want freedom. Some of us aren't in that boat. Okay. But here, the people begin blaming Moses and indirectly God for what Pharaoh is doing. And again, we do the same thing. As I said, I can relate to this. Can you relate to this? But one thing that really struck me about this chapter is that the Israelites could have tried to run away. We were talking about this in my commentary. I've been listening to the Bible show. Amazing. Love it. These two guys that host the podcast, they're fun. They make it interesting. Go check it out. But they are talking about how, the Israelites could have run away. They're spread out. They're going to get straw. They could have run away. Aaron went to meet Moses. He just left freely. Moses left to Midian earlier in this book of Exodus. Yet the people, they remain exactly where they are. And why? Because predictable slavery often feels safer. Man, I wanted that to be a good quotable quote, and I messed it up, and I'm not editing these because I don't have the capacity for that. So let's try this again. Because predictable slavery often feels safer than unpredictable freedom. There, I got it that time. Okay, so their bondage was familiar. It was terrible, but it was familiar. And they knew what tomorrow looked like. They knew the rules. They knew the pain. Freedom meant stepping into the unknown. And freedom required trusting God. And it required believing that God could do something that they could not do for themselves. And the truth is that many of us do the exact same thing. I could make a list of some things. I don't want to make it too exhaustive, but let me just think off the top of my head. Okay, we got like toxic relationships, okay, where loneliness feels scarier than breaking out of the toxic relationship. Who's been there? Raise your hand. I can raise mine. We hang on to bitterness because forgiveness feels too vulnerable. It leaves us too exposed. Sometimes we want to hang on to that anger. It's protective. I have been there. I am there right now. I've been there with God in the last season of grief. I'm there right now. I'm having to face forgiving the woman who killed my daughter, Lydia, 6 months ago. And I don't want to. I'm going to get into this when I get more into my testimony later, but it feels like a betrayal to Lydia, you know? But do I want to stay bound to this taskmaster, Satan, put him on the throne of my heart? Or do I want to have peace? Do I want to do it God's way? Decisions. But yeah, we remain in unhealthy patterns because at least they're familiar. You know? It's very tempting for me to do things the way I did the last grief chapter. And be bitter. And be a victim. And hang on to unforgiveness and yada yada. Sit there and ruminate on what I could have done different. How it could have changed the outcome. Blaming others. I could do that, but I have to continue to step out into something different. Because I know what that gets me. Do you know what yours gets you? We all know what it gets us. We all know the outcome. We do the same stuff, expecting it to change, but it doesn't. We have to step out into the unfamiliar, and that's hard, because that requires trust. We're going to see that with the Israelites when they step out into the wilderness. They begged to go back to Egypt, where they were enslaved. And sometimes we do that. But anyway, we say we want freedom. But often, what we really want is relief without change. And I'm in John as well as Exodus simultaneously. That's been a fun experiment. Anyway, so I'm hopping back to chapter 5, which I already completed, but the man at the pool, do you remember this story? If not, pause, go look it up. It's worth a read. We should all be in our own word. We're just coming here to share the nuggets, but we're each in our own word. Jesus walks up to this man who has been disabled for a very long time. I want to say it was like almost 40 years or something. And he asks him a question. And it reminds me of when someone comes to try to save you. Let's say it's an addiction, and it can be offending, you know? So this is like a surprising question from Jesus. Do you want to be healed? He asks him. And it sounds ridiculous, right? Like a ridiculous question. Of course he wants to be healed. He's been trying to get into the pool for a long time. But Jesus understood something profound, something that we don't often understand. Sometimes we've lived in our condition for so long that it becomes part of our identity. The familiar pain becomes more comfortable than the unfamiliar freedom. Let that sink in. And Jesus asks us the same question today. In your situation, he's reaching into your situation right now through me. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be set free? He is here asking. And you might say, Sandy, I've already answered that question a million times. Where is he? We're going to get to that. But freedom is going to require trusting him enough to step away from what's familiar. Have you trusted him enough to step away from what's familiar? And this is not me pointing fingers. This is not me on a soapbox. I've been there. But I continue to ask myself the same question every day. We're friends in this. We're equals in this. I'm going through it too. And it's a process. Sometimes we have to get asked that question by Jesus a million times. And we go back and forth. You know, it's a relationship. It's not a destination. It's developing a relationship of trust. And sometimes hard things come against us and it exposes that foundation of trust. And we get audited by God and he has to be like, okay, we got to fix this and this and this crack. And sometimes we feel like we're failing. But no, it's just God's working on us. He's working on us. But it's kind of a side tangent. But the Israelites, they wanted freedom until freedom became costly. Okay, until it required them to trust even when, what does it say? We walk by faith and not by sight. When everything looks wrong and bad and God is supposed to be coming through for us, but it doesn't look right? It's asking us to step out into an uncomfortable faith, an uncomfortable trust, an uncomfortable, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to stick with you no matter what. I trust you. I trust the outcome to you. I know you're working it out. Sometimes we look at the physical and we're like, yeah, you're not doing it. And we come to this assumption. We can get impatient. And sometimes I know God has left me in places to develop my patience. He's like, this is part of healing. You need to learn patience and trust. So we're going to stay here until that gets fixed because you need that to get fixed before the outside can get fixed. That's just a surface layer. Everything's happening on a spiritual level. Okay, I keep going off on tangents, but Moses struggled with this too, okay? So at the end of Exodus 5, Moses comes to God and he's frustrated and he's confused and he is basically telling God, like, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you ever send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh, things have gotten worse and you have not delivered your people at all. And like, as I read this, I could hear the disappointment in Moses and I can relate. Moses is thinking exactly what many of us have thought. Have you thought this? God, you called me here. I obeyed you. Why is everything harder now? And maybe part of Moses, what he is wondering is if he should have stayed in Midian. I've had that thought. Like, is he thinking here, maybe I should have just stayed where I was. It was comfortable there. It was predictable there. It was safe there. Now I got myself into some trouble. You know? And I've had that moment. I'm going to share a tiny bit of my testimony here. Hang with me and we'll get back to the study. So, I came to Christ to get healing for my Jade when she was battling Ewing sarcoma. She started in 2020. She battled for a couple years. Near the end, I realized we couldn't do it. The doctors weren't going to be able to do it. Everything that we had tried was failing, so I finally came to him because people told me he could do it. You know, when all else fails, he can do it. But he didn't do it. And I came to him looking to get something, and I know now I have a different relationship with him. I had to learn to just have a relationship, just to have a relationship. But I came to get, and when he didn't come through, when it got harder, I was like, yeah, no. Even though, and we're going to get to this, even though he told me time and time again, this world's going to be hard, but I will be with you. And now I know that. Now I know that. But anyway, yeah, I've been there. I have been there. And sometimes obedience makes life harder before it makes it better. And again, what I was saying is like, none of this is a surprise to God. None of it is. God had already warned Moses that Pharaoh would resist. God had already told him this wouldn't be easy. Yet, at the very first sign of hardship, both Moses and the people begin losing confidence. And it's exactly what we do. I stop feeling bad about how I am the more I get into the Bible. Because I'm like, we're all like this. Since Adam and Eve, we're all like this. But this is how God is, and this is our God. And he's the one who can fix it. So it's not about me anymore. It's not about my shortcomings. It's not about how bad I feel. It's about how much I can abide. Because that's what's going to do it. We learned that in the last episode in this chapter. But yeah, Jesus tells us that he's the same yesterday, today, tomorrow. He's the same here in Exodus 5. He's the same when Jesus comes and says this. He's the same in the New Testament. He's the same in our lives today. He doesn't change. He's like, I've already told you that this is going to happen. Since the fall of Adam and Eve, we have chose to go our own way. And I have to keep this in mind as I grieve my Lydia. And as I grieve Jade. It's like, we live in a fallen world. What do you expect when we are left to our own devices? When we have strayed from God in his way of doing it. And we can get to this as an individual. Yeah, it's like bred into us. It's handed down. But we want to do it our own way. And then we're surprised when bad things happen. Bad things are going to happen in this world. That is what gives me the most comfort, is like, this is a faith walk. We are here to learn to come close to God and to trust him, to develop a relationship with him through it all. And it's going to be hard. This is a fallen world. We live in an evil world where the God of this world is evil. And there's people in pain and struggling, and they do really rotten things. But again, what fascinates me about this chapter is it's not... They're kind of almost blaming God. But it's not God doing this. It is the Pharaoh doing this. It's the Pharaoh making it harder. God's trying to free them. And he allows it, and that's the question. Well, then why does he allow this? Why doesn't he just stop Pharaoh from being able to do this? And that's a hard question, and I've had that question so many times. Why then? Why didn't you just stop it? You could have healed her. Why didn't you? I don't have the answer for that. I wish that I did. But I know that God works it out for good. I know that he does. So, but yeah, Jesus tells us, in the world, you will have tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world. The apostles, they tell us, through many tribulations, we must enter the kingdom of God. Peter tells us, do not be surprised at the fiery trial. James tells us to expect trials because they produce steadfastness. The Bible repeatedly tells us that difficulty is part of the journey. And somehow, I don't know how we do it, how we manage to do it. I do it. It's like we still find ourselves shocked when suffering arrives. And we often act as though hardship means that God has abandoned us. And this is one of the greatest healings that I had to go through, was what I'm assigning the meaning, like, how do I put that? What meaning I'm assigning to what happens. I remember Nikki telling me early on, don't paint God ugly because of this. But yeah, we often assign this meaning because we're going through hard things, because we've chosen to follow God and it gets harder, that God has abandoned us. When in reality, hardship simply means that we are walking the road He already told us about. And this is where God's character shines so beautifully in Exodus 5. The people blame Moses. The people turn back toward Pharaoh, looking for mercy. Moses blames God even. Moses is fed up himself. Everyone is discouraged. Everyone is doubting. Everyone is afraid. And what does God do? I'm reminded of Nikki. The other day, Nikki tried to eat healthy, and it got harder. Her health declined, and she was like, what? She's trying to break free of this taskmaster, of this unhealthy eating, and it gets harder. But what does God do here? He doesn't leave. He doesn't shame them. He doesn't abandon them. He meets them right in the middle of their mess. He stays patient. He stays faithful. And He continues working toward their deliverance. And oh my goodness, can I relate to this? Because I thought that I had to have it together to go through this with God, and I was a mess. I remember, like, my Jade handled cancer so well. She was such an inspiration. She left this world with a mark. Like, her message through her cancer journey, and everyone watching, was like, even if you endure incredible pain, life is still worth it. And you can still find joy within that and happiness. You can still serve others within that. She was the perfect example. My mom went through cancer. She was the perfect example. Her faith never wavered. She was like, whatever God's will is, I know He's going to heal me. She had stage 4 terminal cancer. No chance. It was everywhere. They told her, get her affairs in order. We're not even going to treat you. There's no point. But she said, God's going to heal me. And she hung on to that. And she was like, whatever His will is. But I know that He told me He's going to heal me. And I remember back when I used to teach yoga and meditation, before I came to Christ, it was like, I remember looking at the peace that she had, and I remember asking, how do you have so much peace through this? You're like the Zen master. I'm over here trying to teach this stuff, and I don't even have that. Like, what is that? And I remember her telling me it was Jesus. It was Jesus. But I was butchering it. I was such a mess through the grief. And I thought, there is no way, even if I wanted to come back to God, there's no way I could. I messed it up too bad. I'm too far gone. I'm too angry at Him. I don't even think I believe in Him anymore. What kind of a God would do this? And it wasn't just my Jade. It was all the kids I saw in the cancer hospital. I came to this point where I was like, what's the point? You don't hear the prayers. I don't want to trigger anyone, but I had a bad argument against Him. And he still came into my mess. He understood those emotions. He understood the confusion. He understood the hurt and the pain. He didn't abandon me. I abandoned Him. I walked away from Him, but He kept coming for me. I was that lost sheep that He left the 99 for. And oh my gosh, I do want to stand on a soapbox for this one. If you think you're too far gone, you don't know our God. You don't know this God that I know. If you think that you've messed it up too bad, you haven't. You haven't, because it's not us, it's Him. He comes into it, and it's His power. He's going to come in and He's going to change all that. He's going to change the complaints. He's going to change the bitterness. He's going to change the anger. He's going to do it. He knows we can't do it. We cannot do it. That's why we have Jesus. We cannot do it. So if you're running away because you're angry and you think He can't handle it, that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made and why I stayed stuck in that mental slavery for so long through my grief journey, the first chapter. It's because I thought God couldn't handle that. I thought I had to have it together to go to him. So, anyway, but God stays faithful to us. Through it, he knows. He's telling us through every chapter that I read so far. I'm like, oh, okay, they messed up. God's still there. Oh, they messed it up. God still chose them. He chose to bring he chose to bring Jesus through Judah's line. Judah, who sold Joseph off into slavery, who was sleeping with prostitutes, who was doing all these things. He didn't bring him through Joseph's line. Joseph had it all together. Anyway, God continues to work for Israel's deliverance. And that gives me so much hope because, as I said, I have been Moses. I have been Israel. After Jade passed with cancer, I found myself trapped in a prison of grief and negativity and hopelessness and helplessness and victimhood and woe is me. And the positive person that I used to be was buried underneath the weight of all of this. And I knew that the mindset wasn't healthy. I knew it wasn't life-giving. I knew I needed to stop. I knew, even though I was near atheist and I'd given up on God, I knew somehow I just didn't understand him or what he was doing. I just couldn't understand it somewhere deep down inside of me. I knew that I wasn't acting right, but I couldn't seem to let it go. Part of me, again, like I said, it was just like releasing the pain meant releasing Jade. It meant that somehow that this was okay, and it wasn't okay. And I didn't want to let that go. I didn't want my letting her go to equal that this is okay. Even now, after losing Lydia, I find myself wrestling with similar feelings. God has given me this incredible sense of peace through all of this, somehow, by some miracle. And forgiving feels like betrayal. And moments of peace feel like disloyalty, and moments of joy feel inappropriate somehow. I catch myself being positive on this podcast, and I'm like, gosh, what's wrong with me? I should be in deep grief. And I remember when Lydia passed, she came to me and she told me, do not do to yourself with my passing as you did with Jade. Don't do it. Let me go. Let me have my freedom. Don't beat yourself up. Don't go back to where you were. Promise me. And I made her a promise, and I still, every time I'm feeling super negative, I remember I made Lydia a promise. That was the hardest years of our life as after Jade passed, because I was going through it. And I hate to admit this, it's embarrassing. That's why I say I butchered it. I was not someone to look up to. I was negative. I remember poor little Lydia having to be the parent and slap me in the face and say, wake up. I remember Jade coming to me in dreams and telling me, you got 2 kids left. Let me go so that you can take care of them. And I was just so deep in it. I was just there, but I wasn't there. I was a bad mom because I just wasn't present. I was so lost in my pain of losing Jade. I was so focused on what I'd lost. I couldn't see what I had left until Jesus came and found me and freed me. But that was my taskmaster. It's just this constant rumination on the past and what I could have done different and how we could have fixed it and how she's gone, and poor us, poor Jade, poor all these other kids. Like that was my reality. That's what I thought about every day. And it literally made me physically sick. But yeah, it's amazing how often our taskmasters disguise themselves as loyalty and protection and justice and survival. And again, when someone comes to try and take it away from us, we're like offended. They want to free us. You want to free us? I remember so many people tried to tell me about God and Jesus when I was deep in it, and I was offended. I don't want my freedom. I want to hang on to this. But eventually, God began showing me something. I could hold on to the prison, or I could hold on to the peace, but I can't have both. And peace required trust. And the same lesson the Israelites had to learn, the same lesson Moses has to learn here in this chapter, is the same lesson we all have to learn. You and me both. Sometimes God calls us to let go of what feels familiar so he can lead us to something better. And sometimes that process hurts. And sometimes it feels like things are getting worse before they're getting better. And sometimes it feels like God's not coming through. But Exodus 5 reminds us that the story isn't just, it's not over just because the suffering has increased. In fact, often the resistance becomes strongest right before deliverance arrives. Have you ever heard the phrase, the devil fights hardest right before victory? Because he knows what's coming. He's going to fight to hang on to you. He doesn't want to let go. He doesn't want to let go of his slaves. He's benefiting off of it. So if you're walking through a difficult season today, do not mistake Pharaoh's resistance for God's absence. Don't mistake the struggle for abandonment. Don't mistake the battle for failure. God is often doing his deepest work in the very moments when we are most tempted to turn back. Don't. Keep on pushing through. Come on, friend. I'm right here with you. Let's walk through that tough spot together. That transition into freedom together. Let's keep going. If you're angry, if you're confused, if you're doubting, if you're frustrated, if you're struggling to trust him, bring it to him. He can handle it. I promise you. He met Moses in that place. He met Israel in that place. He's going to meet you there too. Because our God, the God that we serve, he is not scared of our questions. He is not intimidated by our doubts. He is not offended by our weakness. He meets us in the mess, and he faithfully leads us forward one step at a time. And the question is the same one that echoes through Exodus chapter 5. Will you, here's my question for you, friend, and my question for me every day. Will you cling to the familiar bondage that you know? Or will you trust God enough to follow him into a freedom that you can't yet see, into a transition that is hard? I want to know. What is your answer to that question? I want to know. Tell me in the comments. What are you struggling with? How do you see God rescuing you? Tell me about your complaints for God. I want to hear them. Tell me about this hard season that you're in. Use up all the characters that you can. Come on, this is a place for people going through hard seasons to come together and find friendship and find fellowship. Okay? I'm going through it too. I want to hear it all. The highs, the lows, the wins, the struggles, the testimonies. They help me on my own journey. And like this video too, because it helps us to connect and find more like-minded souls who need this word, who need to read your testimony down in the comments, who need to hear that somebody else is going through this. Not just Moses, not just the Israelites, but we're there too. Who needs you? And I, as online friends through the season. Okay? All right, well, thank you for spending this time with me. Thanks for going on my walk with me today. I love you so much. I am so proud of you for how far you've come. I love the person you are today and yesterday and tomorrow. You never disappoint me. Ever, ever. Okay, there is nothing disappointing about you. You were created in his image, and he took his time with you from the crown of your head to the bottom of your feet. Come on, can I get an amen? Can I get an agreement? Take it easy on yourself today, friend. Have a gorgeous day. It's Saturday for me. Have a wonderful Saturday, whatever day it is for you. Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, what day is it? Have a happy day, whatever day it is for you, and I cannot wait to chat again. So I hope you'll join me again. And yeah, bye. Love ya.